Every year, the nations of the world spend more than $2 trillion on weapons, warfare, and the machinery of destruction. Tanks, missiles, fighter jets, and nuclear arsenals consume vast oceans of money, resources that could instead be healing wounds, building futures, and saving lives. In a world where nearly 700 million people still live in extreme poverty, where children die daily from preventable diseases, and where climate disasters displace millions, this staggering military expenditure raises a haunting question. What if we spent that $2 trillion on life instead of war? Imagine a global revolution, not of bullets and borders, but of ideas, investment, and hope. A revolution where hospitals rise instead of bunkers, where classrooms replace command centers, where every dollar becomes a seed for peace, not a weapon of war. This isn't a utopian dream. It's a real, tangible vision of what could be achieved if humanity chose to redirect its vast financial power toward building a just, sustainable, and peaceful world. Origins of weapon making. Survival and protection. Early humans created tools for hunting and self-defense. Over time, these evolved into weapons used against other humans, often for resources or territory. Tribal conflict. As human societies grew, conflicts between tribes or groups over food, land, or power became common, leading to the refinement of weapons like spears, bows, and knives. An evolution of weapons through history. Ancient civilizations. As technology advanced, so did weaponry. Bronze swords, chariots, and fortified cities. The goal was often dominance, defense, or expansion. Gunpowder revolution. The discovery of gunpowder in China and its spread to Europe changed warfare drastically. Cannons, guns, and explosives made mass destruction more efficient. Industrial revolution brought about mass production of weapons and innovations like tanks, machine guns, and submarines. Wars became larger and deadlier. 20th century to now, world wars led to atomic bombs and modern missiles. Today we have cyber weapons, drones, and AI-assisted warfare. 3. Reasons why humans create weapons of destruction. Power and control. Weapons can provide political or military power. Countries develop advanced arms to protect sovereignty or assert dominance. Fear and deterrence. The idea of peace through strength motivates nations to build weapons to prevent attacks from others, e.g. the Cold War arms race. Economic gain. Arms manufacturing is a profitable industry. Some nations or companies benefit economically from selling weapons. Ideology and conflict. Religious, ethnic, or political ideologies can lead to violence and the creation of weapons for wars or terrorism. Human nature. Some argue that aggression and competition are part of human nature, and weapons are just one expression of that. 4. Consequences and ethical dilemmas. Civilian casualties. Modern warfare increasingly affects civilians, not just soldiers. Destruction of environments. Weapons, especially nuclear or chemical, can ruin ecosystems. Moral questions. Who decides who lives or dies? Should we develop weapons that can wipe out cities? 5. Modern-day context. Arms races, ongoing tensions like the US-China or India-Pakistan dynamics drive military buildup. Nuclear deterrence, the threat of mutual destruction, e.g. US versus Russia, keeps some countries from war, but it's a dangerous balance. Weaponization of AI and cyber. Future conflicts may not even involve soldiers, but rather software and unmanned systems. As of April 2025, global weapons politics are characterized by escalating arms trade, shifting alliances, and challenges in arms control agreements, influenced by ongoing conflicts and geopolitical tensions. Surge in global arms trade. The international arms market has experienced significant growth, driven by nations seeking to bolster their defense capabilities amid rising geopolitical tensions. The Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, SIPRI, reported that the volume of global arms transfers remained consistent over the past decade, with notable increases in Europe and the Americas offsetting declines in other regions. Ukraine emerged as the largest arms importer, accounting for 8.8% of global imports, reflecting the impact of the ongoing conflict in the region. This surge is also fueled by countries aiming for defense sovereignty through indigenous development of military technologies. Nations like South Korea, Turkey, India, and Japan are actively developing their own fighter aircraft, contributing to a paradoxical increase in defense exports as they collaborate with established defense firms for subsystems and technology transfers. Shifts in arms. Export dynamics. The United States has solidified its position as the leading arms exporter, increasing its share to 43% of global exports. In contrast, Russia's arms exports have declined by 64%, now representing 7.8% of the global market. France has surpassed Russia as the second largest arms exporter, holding a 9.6% share. Italy has also ascended in the rankings, now occupying the 6th position with a 4.8% share. Challenges in arms control agreements. The future of nuclear arms control faces uncertainty. The New START treaty between the US and Russia is set to expire in February 2026, and prospects for a successor agreement appear bleak due to diminished trust and heightened geopolitical tensions. Kremlin officials have expressed skepticism about initiating new negotiations under current conditions. In response to these challenges, the US House of Representatives introduced Resolution 100, emphasizing the importance of continued arms control agreements and advocating for negotiated constraints on Russian and Chinese strategic nuclear forces. Impact of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. The ongoing Russia-Ukraine war has significantly influenced global arms politics. The conflict has led to increased military cooperation among allied nations and has prompted a re-evaluation of defense strategies worldwide. The exchange of military technologies and battlefield experiences is expected to have lasting impacts on global peace and security, potentially affecting other regions and contributing to the proliferation of advanced weaponry. The current landscape of global weapons politics is marked by an intensifying arms trade, evolving export dynamics, and challenges in establishing and maintaining arms control agreements, all set against a backdrop of ongoing conflicts and shifting geopolitical alliances. Channeling all global financial resources into the economic development of the world, rather than military spending or destructive purposes, would create profound and historic impacts. Here's a breakdown of what could happen if that shift occurred. 1. Eradication of extreme poverty. Current global military spending is over $2 trillion annually, according to SIPRI. Reallocating even a fraction of that could lift billions out of poverty, ensure universal access to clean water, food, shelter, and sanitation. The UN estimates that ending extreme poverty would require about $175 billion annually, less than 10% of current global military budgets. 2. Global health transformation. Full funding of universal healthcare and pandemic preparedness would prevent millions of deaths yearly. Investment in vaccine access, hospitals, clean water and nutrition would dramatically increase life expectancy and reduce disease globally. Medical research for cures, like cancer, malaria, etc., would accelerate. 3. Education for all. More than 260 million children are out of school worldwide. Redirecting global funds could ensure universal access to quality education, drastically reducing illiteracy and boosting innovation and social progress. A well-educated population creates a self-sustaining economy, reducing dependency on aid. 4. Sustainable infrastructure and jobs. Massive investment in green energy, transport, housing, and digital access could modernize infrastructure globally. This would create millions of jobs, reduce emissions, and spark a new wave of global economic growth. Countries once trapped in debt or underdevelopment could become economically independent. 5. Conflict prevention and global peace. Economic growth reduces the root causes of war, poverty, inequality, and resource competition. With economic collaboration instead of competition, nations would have fewer incentives to go to war. Peaceful coexistence would become more economically valuable than conflict. 6. Climate change mitigation. Funds could be redirected to fight climate change by transitioning to renewable energy, restoring forests, protecting biodiversity, and adapting vulnerable communities. Long-term survival of ecosystems and future generations would be more secure. 7. Global equality and justice. Wealth redistribution through development could close the gap between rich and poor nations. Reduced inequality would lead to stronger democracies, less corruption, and improved human rights. But what would it take? Global political will. Nations must agree to prioritize people over power. Disarmament treaties and arms control agreements. Global governance structures like a strengthened UN to coordinate efforts. Cultural shifts from fear and competition to cooperation and collective security. If the world were to redirect the $2 trillion currently spent each year on military and weapons development into global economic development, the transformation could be extraordinary. First, around $200 billion could be dedicated to eradicating extreme poverty. With this investment, the world could provide cash transfers, food, housing, and basic needs to lift over 700 million people out of poverty, ensuring no one goes without the essentials of life. Next, $300 billion could go toward global healthcare. This would allow every person on Earth to have access to basic medical care, vaccines, maternal health services, and treatments for major diseases like malaria, tuberculosis, and HIV/AIDS. The impact could be staggering. Millions of lives saved every year and a massive improvement in life expectancy and quality of life. $250 billion could be invested in universal education. This would build schools, train teachers, and provide materials and technology to ensure that every child, regardless of geography or income, has access to quality learning. A more educated population drives long-term growth, innovation, and peace. To address basic human needs, $100 billion could be used to ensure clean water and sanitation for all. This would drastically reduce waterborne diseases and save hundreds of thousands of children each year from preventable illness. Another $300 billion could go to renewable energy and climate action. This would fund the global shift away from fossil fuels, protect forests, invest in green technology, and help vulnerable countries adapt to climate change. It would be a giant leap towards saving the planet. $250 billion could support the creation of sustainable infrastructure, from roads and housing to internet access and public transportation, especially in developing countries. This would stimulate local economies, create jobs, and reduce inequalities. For food security, $150 billion could be allocated to supporting small farmers, improving agricultural technology, and ensuring fair food distribution. Hunger and malnutrition could be drastically reduced, especially in regions most affected by climate and conflict. To encourage innovation and employment, $150 billion could be used to support green jobs, youth entrepreneurship, and tech hubs in low and middle-income nations, empowering people to build sustainable futures. In support of global justice, $100 billion could be invested in peace-building and justice systems, strengthening courts, community conflict resolution, and restoring trust in public institutions. Finally, $100 billion could be reserved for emergency response to deal with disasters, pandemics, and refugee crises quickly and humanely. This reimagined use of resources could literally reshape our planet, ending extreme poverty, vastly improving public health and education, combating climate change, and building a more peaceful, just, and connected global society. To the leaders of our world, history will not remember the size of your armies or the power of your weapons. It will remember whether you chose fear or foresight, whether you spent trillions to prepare for destruction or invested in the creation of a better, safer, more just world. You hold in your hands the power to rewrite the destiny of humanity. The same financial resources used to fuel division, dominance, and death could instead heal the wounds of this world. You could be the generation that finally ended war, not by force, but by wisdom. But let this also be clear. If you continue to prioritize conflict over compassion and profit over people, then the wars you fund may not only destroy enemies, but eventually destroy the very civilizations you're sworn to protect. The weapons you build today could become the silence of tomorrow. The world is watching. History is listening. Choose peace. Choose people. Choose legacy over power. Because the future is not built by force, it's built by vision.